people, and we kind of need to move a little bit away from that individualistic mindset, which I think this verse is encouraging us to kind of be like, if you were on your own when you were at your lowest, do you think you would still be, you would be here right now? And it's like, probably not, right? So it's like, don't think now that you can do everything on your own, or that you have to do everything on your own when at one point in time you couldn't.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Trinity Talks. My name is Kyla.
I'm Melissa.
And I'm Ben.
And we are here to wrap up our podcast, our whole teaching series, actually, called Growing Season, where we are going back to the farm to learn what the farm has to teach us about faith. And so in last week's sermon, Mike Messenger actually preached because Rob was away. And he talked about these kind of obscure laws in the book of Deuteronomy, all about gleaning, which is this practice of harvesting, but then leaving some of the crops in the field, leaving the edges of the field, or like, you know, when you sort of go over the trees, don't go over them again to get the extra grapes or apples or whatever, so that we leave them for other people, for the poor, for the foreigner, for the widows, for anybody who just needs extra food. And this sounds cool, I think. Yeah. It sounds like a great idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It also sounds like really cool for farmer people who like can practically do this. I think it's like then the question becomes, okay, so like how do we do that in life? Like does that even matter for us today? So just as you think about that and as you think about the sermon, is there any particular parts that sort of stand out to you?
I think one of the parts that stood out to me a lot is how intentional God is at making us more intentional about giving and caring to others.
Okay.
It's usually something you get to see of like, oh yeah, love your neighbors. But it's interesting to see him give consistently practical advice of, hey, make sure to leave X amount of food from the harvest away for others. If you drop something, you don't have to pick it up. Someone else can find that. They can have that. Yeah. So this interesting practice to leave extra and make sure you're constantly thinking of others, even if they're not there with you.
Right. Yeah. So, therefore the piece that's like, okay, not just, hey, love your neighbors, but like, here's how you do that.
Here's how. And constant examples. It's great.
Yeah. What about for you?
I mean, I agree completely with Ben. It really is so cool how God is so intentional. And I love that, Mike, he talked about Ruth and Boaz and how like, from this law and from following this practice, it led to such amazing things. So sometimes like we might be in a period in our life where sometimes gleaning is a little bit easier to do and sometimes it's a little bit harder to do. Sure. But at the end of the day, it's like if we still obey God and we do it, we never know where he's going to take that.
Sure.
And I think it's just like, I love that it's just such a compassionate and intentional. You have to mindfully say like, oh, I'm not going to go and pick that up because someone else might need it. It's like a practice you have to get into.
Absolutely. He's the God of love for a reason.
Yeah. And I think, sort of similarly, like I think one of the points that really stood out in the sermon and that is sort of related to all of this is, just the idea that it is a really intentional choice.
Yeah.
Right. And that it is a choice that's like really sort of counterintuitive to our world and our culture right now, right? Like, so Mike started out the sermon by talking about, you know, like agribusiness, right? And how it's always efficiency, like don't waste anything.
Exactly.
And I guess to think of the leaving behind as like waste, as opposed to thinking about it as, you know, a way of making space for other people. Exactly. And I think that is a little bit different, like in our culture today. Like I think if a farmer today just like left part of their field there, people would be like, why?
Yes.
And other people probably wouldn't feel free to go and glean from that, right?
Yeah.
But are there other ways in farming or in life that we can like make space for other people and just like leave behind or like give away, like whatever it is, right?
I think it's really funny because if you imagine like gleaning with what we have today, instead of maybe with fruits or with grains, but with money, if you just start like throwing $20 bills onto the street, people also would question. That's just, now you're littering. We don't know where that goes. But instead of just doing that, if you can be intentional about where your money goes, at the start of every month or wherever you get your paycheck, setting a set of money aside to use for giving is a really, really handy spot. Whether it's giving directly to a church, whether all of that goes to a church or all of it goes to a charity or some that goes here and some that goes there.
Right.
I think it's partially just to be intentional about how do I garnish my resources, my time, my money. What do I have to offer?
Yeah.
So by setting up a plan intentionally, saying, hey, I want to give this amount away, I want to leave some for others, is probably one of the easier ways to try and get into doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely,
Yeah. So I'm going to read for us the passage from Deuteronomy, so folks have a little bit of context for what we're talking about here. So Deuteronomy chapter 24, starting at verse 19. So when you are harvesting in your field and you overlook a sheaf, do not go back and get it. Leave it for the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow, so that the Lord your God may bless the work of your hands. And when you beat your olives from the trees, do not go over the branches a second time. Leave it for the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow. And when you harvest grapes in your vineyard, do not go over the vines again. Leave what remains for the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and that is why I command you to do this. So just as I read that passage of scripture, is there anything that stands out to you?
Definitely, when it mentions how the Israelites, they were slaves in Egypt. So sometimes I guess it's human nature to be like, well, why am I going to leave something behind for someone else, right? Or even in life, we're like, well, why do I have to do this for someone else? Why do I have to go the extra mile or be very intentional? And it's just that reminder of we've all been in places where we had to rely on someone else. Or if we haven't been in those places yet, I feel like eventually,
it's coming.
It's coming. Exactly. And I do feel like God makes that very intentional, where he's just it's time to learn. It's time to do some character development. So just for the Israelites, and even for us, just remembering the times where we kind of needed someone else's compassion and love and time. And then once we're kind of in a place where, hey, we feel kind of a little bit better, good, that's also something that we can give back to, right? I think it's really important to kind of keep that cycle going, because there's always going to be people who are going to need people. And just remain, it's like reminding us to remain humble.
Sure. And a really intentional sort of commentary on what it means to be human. Right? That being human is being people who have needs and people who are dependent on other people. Right? And that's not sometimes we think of being dependent on other people as problematic or whatever, but it's not inherently problematic, right? It just is fact that we need each other, and that therefore part of the reason, maybe not the only reason, but part of the reason that God asks me to be generous, to love my neighbor, is because God loves me.
Exactly.
And it's because other people love me. Right? And it just feeds that cycle. Right? And so remembering, okay, I'm not just giving what I have because God told me to. I'm giving what I have because I have been blessed. I have been given much, and so I can give much away.
Right.
He talks about giving is better than receiving. And loving each other and caring for one another doesn't always mean that we have to be a burden on the other. Sometimes giving is a real treat. And even for just dealing with people, even if you're in a spot where you have all that you need, you're very wealthy, both physically and financially, but having people to have that wealth for, being able to go through life with others, whether it's just to feed them or whether it's to go through with camaraderie, those are really important facts. It's what makes it meaningful.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like society has been, and it is growing increasingly more individualistic, right? Just that idea of I have to protect me, I have to protect what's mine kind of idea. So I understand why the idea of gleaning in any way might not be super popular in our society right now. However, I think that can be really scary, right? And I don't think that's necessarily a healthy sign. I think we do need to think of other people, and we kind of need to move a little bit away from that individualistic mindset, which I think this verse is encouraging us to kind of be if you were on your own when you were at your lowest, do you think you would still be, you would be here right now? And it's probably not, right? So it's like, don't think now that you can do everything on your own, or that you have to do everything on your own when at one point in time you couldn't.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the other points that Mike brought up in the sermon that sort of stands out to me is that this is an act of charity, of giving away, but it's not just giving away.
Yeah.
Right? It's leave these things in your field for the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow, so that they can come and gather those things themselves.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's a sense of like dignity of labor.
Absolutely.
In that, right? That it's not just, here's a thing.
It's
right?
not just handouts.
Yeah, and it's not just handouts. And I think that there is, sometimes when people think about like charity or giving to the poor or whatever, they're like, handouts are just no good. I think there is a time and a place for people to just get a thing that they need. 100%.
Disaster relief, just give it.
Yeah,
You take it.
You don't work for that.
Yeah. But I think that there are other times and places and spaces in which, we are actually called to invite people to be part of what is happening.
Absolutely.
I just think that that's really interesting here.
I think that is really cool, because at the core of that too is like not excluding people, right? You're including people in more than just, making sure that they have the needs they have. You're including them into like a practice, a community. And I think that's also really important too. So I think maybe that's a different perspective on Gleaning as well, where we can give money, we can give time, but even just like inviting people into the things that we're doing, maybe another way as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think it makes it a little more relational too, right?
Yes.
Like when I think about, like in the example of food, I could be like, I'll give some food to a food bank and they'll like distribute that. And that's good. Do that. I could also invite someone into my house and have dinner with them. Or I could go to like a community kitchen and cook a meal with someone else, right? Like there's just all of these ways of inviting people into the process. It helps break down those like barriers.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really like as well about this form of gleaning is I just did a big project for my school on a store called Good Store. It's run by Hank and John Green, but one of the things that they do is they take all profits and donate them directly to charity.
Okay.
But instead of it just being handouts, if we give things to people, it can be really, really good.
Yeah.
We also don't want to just slap a Band-Aid on a bigger problem.
Sure.
So one of the things that they did is they partnered with Partners in Health and a few other organizations to build a hospital or maternal center of excellence in Sierra Leone.
Okay.
So now instead of just here's some stuff, here's a hospital and a training center to encourage them to develop. Hey, here are the resources you have. Now you get to have more jobs, more expertise, more knowledge. Now it's your time to shine.
Yeah.
I love that. That's incredible.
It's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. So just, thinking about how do we include people in these acts of generosity, I think is super important.
It is. One of the things I also love about the passage that stood out to me was when we're like whacking the trees to get all the fruits out.
Yeah.
One of the fun things is you don't go over it twice. You just do it the once.
Yeah.
Partially to help you, I think, partially for burnout and make sure you don't overwork yourself. You have more of yourself to give to others.
Yeah.
But then it also does invite more people to keep coming back too. Hey, let's do this together.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, Ruth and Boaz, right? The whole
Absolutely.
that's how it kind of started. So I think that's a really good point. And like imagine having to go back to the tree because you're like, I left another one there. Oh my gosh.
Yes. It's like right now I grew some tomatoes this year.
Yeah.
And right now that some of the tomatoes are ripening, but it seems like every day that I go back, there are more red tomatoes that were green the day before. Right. But what would it look like to be like, okay, I'm going to wait to the peak. And then at the peak, I'll harvest all of the red tomatoes and then leave the rest. I mean, right now I wouldn't leave the rest because the squirrels would eat them all and that would be sad.
Hey, the squirrels will love it.
Yes. But actually, so in this community garden that I'm part of, every Thursday there is like a food charity that will come and like pick up extra vegetables and things like that, right?
Awesome.
So being able to say, okay, I will take the tomatoes that I need this week and then I can give away the rest, right?
Yeah. There's a thing to be said for understanding how much do I actually need?
Yeah.
Right.
And then being able to say, okay, the rest is totally okay to be given away.
Yeah, for sure.
And
sure.
that actually is a really, because I mean, Ben, you're doing your master's in like sustainable, I know, like business.
In psychology.
A master's of business with an emphasis in sustainability.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
And
BA was psych.
which super cool, all of like everything that you're learning and have learned, but even just like that question about like overconsumption, right? It's like how that can be really unhealthy and harmful socially and things like that, and just is it sustainable? And I feel like I mean, I don't think overconsumption is sustainable. You know more than I do about that.
I was going to say, one of the fun things that we're learning about, especially that's bringing people together, is especially things like global warming. It's getting really hard to tackle these things when a lot of times the message is us as individuals just need to be better.
Right.
Just like, don't consume as much, don't buy as much, walk whenever you can, don't drive as much. What we've been looking at the data is that's not really enough anymore to solve some of these issues. We're past that.
Yeah.
What we need is to get people to join together for more collaborative efforts to bring down total overconsumption and overproduction.
Right.
So
We need
it's-
like whole systems change.
We need systems transformations. That's a big thing. So absolutely. Individuals, we can be great.
Yeah.
Get more people in. That's the way we make the most change.
That's cool.
Yeah. So then as you think about these like gleaning laws and sort of practices that God advocates for, like what does that look like today? Especially I think for those of us who aren't farmers out there beating the trees and harvesting the wheat, right? Yeah. How do we put this into practice?
I think one of the ways we do is like classically generosity and giving. One of the things I like, even just going back to my project with Good Store, is outside of just supporting a hospital. One of the things that they're doing is they're putting a lot of the profits as well, now that the hospital is almost done, is putting it towards tuberculosis treatment and long-term care.
Sure.
Because one of the ways for that one specifically is it's an injustice in economy. We have the tools to solve tuberculosis, and yet we haven't been able to just due to inequities.
Sure.
So trying to be able to send money there is one really nice way that we can do it. But even outside of just that, whether it's donating to people in your neighborhood or the church, those are ways. Or if it's time, it's volunteering.
Sure.
Where can you try and help out? Where do you find you have a gift or an availability you can use?
I mean, I love the volunteering part as well, because I think people do have an excess of time. I think sometimes it can feel like we don't, because we're like, we have to do this and do this and do this. And it's totally fair. Like, don't burn yourself out. Don't be doing 20 things at once, because that's not sustainable and it's not very healthy either, right? But if you find that you do have some extra time, like, you know, whether that's even serving at church or even just anywhere, right? Just giving a little bit of that extra time, because kind of like being a part of like a community and being part of a system, you're building those relationships, and at the same time you're giving back, and you're reminding yourself that you're not just like one person handling everything on your own. You are reliant on other people, and other people are reliant on you as well.
Right. Yeah. And then I think all of this, like generosity, the volunteering, the building relationships, I think one of the things that is just structurally different about gleaning versus like generosity is that it is planned ahead of time.
Yes.
It's like built into the design and the rhythm of the harvest, right? And I think that feels really important, because it's that act of saying generosity is part of my life. It is how I will live. It is like a rule, a structure that I have built in, regardless of what's happening in my life.
Yeah.
Right? Regardless of whether this is a good year or a bad year, regardless of like my time or whatever's happening, I'm going to put God, I'm going to put other people first.
Right.
Yeah.
That feels really hard.
Yes.
But I think that is one of the primary things that this law is like the heart behind it. Yeah.
So one of the things I find interesting is like take out your calculator sometimes and try and calculate how much money would I make this year? How much money do I need this year? What can I give away? And same with time.
Yeah.
Look, you only have so many hours physically in a week.
Yeah.
How many are you needing? And where are little areas we can have some wiggle room and give?
Yeah.
And even if you try and mix it like a rhythm in your life, and then you realize, ooh, maybe I did too much this week.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice then to be able to ask others to be able to support you too. It's a community effort. You don't always have to be the one giving.
I love that. That is such an important point too, because I think kind of like where we're sitting here, even if people who have listened to the sermon from last week, we might think of ourselves as the farmer, right?
Yeah.
But also, if you are in a place where you are the gleaner, where you're the one who's like kind of picking things up, like that's totally okay as well. Because I think we're gonna be both people, both groups at different points in our lives, and and I think it's just when we do incorporate that generosity, it's kind of like, no matter where we're at in our life, there's like this one thing that's like kind of stable, that's like, okay, like this is how I'm being rooted in community. This is how I'm trying to get closer to God or putting God first in my life.
Yeah. And I think the like important part is that like generosity is the principle,
Right.
and what that looks like in each person's life is going to be different, right? Like even financially speaking, like we could say, oh, it needs to be a certain percentage or whatever, maybe, but it could be different amounts of money. It could be not money at all, right? Like some people can be more generous financially. Other people can be more generous with their relationships or with their time or like with whatever is happening.
Yeah.
Right. But I think, so when I think about the financial piece of it, like what becomes really clear to me is like, if I put generosity first, if I get my paycheck and the first thing that I do with my paycheck is give away a portion of my money, then I no longer have that money to spend on McDonald's.
Yes.
That's
Right?
It's a good fail safe.
Right? And so then, like, obviously, like, there are things that I need to pay my rent and put gas in my car and buy some groceries. Like, right? So, like, I shouldn't give away so much money that I can no longer afford to live. But if I give away that money first, then some of the things that I maybe would have spent that money on that I don't actually need, maybe just don't need to happen. Right? And that's okay.
It's priorities. What do you set first? If I'm prioritizing giving, I'll give away first and make sure that's the thing that's like most important to me.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, like, so while we're talking about McDonald's, sometimes, okay, maybe I personally spend a lot of money on fast food. I don't think I do particularly, but like sometimes that's like a social activity too. And it's like, well, if I don't have money to spend on going out with my friends, then like I won't see my friends. But maybe you can find ways to spend time with your friends that don't cost money. And maybe that will be a really weird mind shift for some people. Maybe they're like, the thing that I do with my friends is go out for dinner or go to the movies or whatever, right? And like, if you have space in your time and your budget to do that, great. But like, maybe as a friend group, you can sort of shift what you're doing and say, actually, well, what if we just all came in and had dinner? Or what if we all go out and do this volunteer thing together? Right? Like, are there ways that we can shift not just our personal sort of sense of generosity, but like our social, what we do with other people?
I think it's really funny now because I have a big friend group online, and a lot of the times, depending on which group of friends I'm playing at the time, a lot of them are really tight on money. So one of the things we always come back to is games that are free to play are some of our favorites. But even outside of that, it's a community effort. If we're all saying, hey, I found this really fun game that we want to play, it's like $5, and like, I really don't want to spend money right now. I really need to prioritize like rent and savings for school. Say, great, no worries. I have a little extra. I got you. It's community effort.
I love that. And just like, I feel like it's like when you're with your friends, right? It's like, even just in that case, it's like, you know, this is someone that you care about. It kind of just like a little bit, like it kind of comes naturally in a way. And even just in the verse, it's like when the farmer's like harvesting, doing the whacking of the trees and things like that. It's, I mean, I would assume that he's not like intentionally being like, I'm not gonna pick that one. I'm gonna pick this one. Well, okay, maybe I don't actually know.
Maybe a little.
Maybe a little, but it's kind of like, it seems like naturally there's just gonna be things that are gonna be left behind. And I think it's cool that God made it that way, because I think maybe we can kind of look in our lives and being like, well, where do we just naturally have an extra bit of time, or naturally where we could help someone out or build relationships, or maybe give a little bit more to like church or just anywhere, right? And I think sometimes it doesn't have to be like okay, let me very intentionally give $20 to my friend every single week. It could be like, oh, like we have the same interest, we all like each other. Oh, hey, $5, I'll do that for. I think that it comes a very like natural, smooth way. Or maybe it doesn't have to be such a huge pressure thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think one thing as well that's really beneficial is trying to help like destigmatize and remove the shame from being the people who do need to glean.
Yeah.
If you're just in a spot where like maybe you got just laid off and you don't have everything you need,
Right.
there's no shame in being laid off, especially if it wasn't your fault.
Right.
So some of the things is being able to lift people up and not put them down, not being like, oh, I'll leave some for you peasant in the side.
Right.
They'll say like, oh, that's hard. I've been there too. And can we help out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hey, I'm there for you.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you think makes it so hard to put this into practice, right? This so the principle, generosity, leaving space for other people sounds really good. I think we're all kind of on board. Why don't we all do that?
Speaking as someone in school, like a lot of people around my age are really concerned with a lot of things of student debt. How much does schooling cost? Combine that with cost of living increasing, cost of grocery prices increasing, gas prices all over the map.
Right.
So a lot of people are going, I don't know that I have physically enough for me, especially with like the classic American dream.
Sure.
Is like make yourself your own person, be able to buy a house is usually one of the big dreams.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, that's not really a reality right now.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so, especially when you're looking at those goals, it becomes really hard to say, yeah, I have extra to give when I physically can't attain some of these goals.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's basically just a shift of mindset. We're playing a different game now. How can we change this game? And hopefully there's a lot of other people playing the game too that help us change it.
Sure.
Right.
But how can we shift from a moment of scarcity, saying, I don't know that I have enough, to being able to have a more open hand posture and be able to give just a little bit?
I think also just I feel like as things get increasingly individualistic, it makes sense. Like I feel like there's a social contract sometimes where it's like, for example, in this case, it's kind of like a social contract where the farmer who might be a little bit more well off, they are supporting people who are going to need that extra support. At the same time, I feel like there's another social contract where it's like the older generation, they take care of the younger generation. I feel like that's not happening as much anymore. And I feel like that's why we have students, young people who have goals and all these things, but they're like, oh my gosh, I need to save money for this. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. And it's like, that makes so much sense. And I guess the way that things are, do that. But then at the same time, it's kind of like, maybe you guys are the gleaners. Are the farmers leaving things for you guys? And maybe just socially where things are at, that's not what's happening, right?
Sure.
And it's like those kind of social contracts are being broken down. And then what's happening is, again, like young people, they're just trying to survive and kind of keep up. Not to blame the older generation, because I feel like I'm part of the older. I feel old, honestly. That's what I'm trying to say. But it's kind of like, even just for me being like, okay, like if I'm almost 30, then like what can I then do for the younger generation so that they can have things a little bit more, like ease things a little bit more too.
Sure.
And I think I think in your example, because I think that just like is really sitting with me as being like, young people, you're just trying to survive. So then what can the older generation do? What can groups that feel a little bit more well off do? And I think that the shift in mindset is going to have to come from those kind of people, and at the same time setting an example as well, and then having young people being like, well, yeah, where can I maybe give a little bit more?
And I think recognizing that like not everyone, but a lot of people are feeling crunched, right? And so not to say that is anyone's particular fault, not to say that like, it's just, there's bad systems out there that are just not working for people.
Absolutely.
Right. And so in that, how can we as followers of Jesus say, I'm not playing that game? Right? To say, okay, the vision of the American dream of the house with the white picket fence and the two kids and the dog and whatever, right? This is a great vision. I would love that. That would be great. But how do we opt out and say, I'm not playing that game? Because actually what matters to me is family. Actually what matters to me is loving my neighbor. Actually what matters to me is justice, like whatever it is. Right? And say, that's what I want to orient my life towards.
Right.
And therefore, generosity just has to be part of that. Right? Because it's all in that same pathway. And I'm not saying that's easy.
No.
will sound weird to a lot of people. It will not be successful, quote unquote. Like, you're maybe not going to see the fruit of that in your life, right? But just believing that that is the better way, that is the game to play.
Starting the spark that changes way more than just what we can on our own.
Yeah.
I think one of the ways as well that we can try to do this, especially moving away from just financially giving, is getting involved in your communities.
Yeah.
If this is a game that doesn't work for us, but is still the game that we're all playing, just having a voice, trying to go to whether it's local events or voting, especially for voter turnout is still really, really low in almost every area.
Sure.
So trying to have more people use your voice to say, hey, I think the game needs to change. How can we make this a better game for everyone? How do we change the systems that are currently in place that are failing, whether it's repairing them or just totally shifting them, finding something new? If no one says anything, it's not going to change. Got to work together for it.
Yeah.
I love that. So, and it's kind of just like, I think maybe just socially, we need more gleaning in our society. And maybe, like, I think Christians, we do have to be the people who are trying to glean and love thy neighbor and do the things that God has told us to do in a world where people are moving away from that. And it's like, I understand why people are moving away from that, because things, again, people are in a crunch. It feels more urgent. It feels more like, if I don't do this, then like all these things are going to happen. And sometimes they do happen, right? But I think it's like, as Christians, kind of taking on, bearing that cross, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And just like believing fully, or maybe believing partially, but like doing it anyway, but just like believing that it is the better way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Even though it makes no sense, that the way of Jesus that chooses self-sacrifice, that chooses generosity and love over a vision of success, right? That just is the better way.
Yeah.
That just is what's going to ultimately make us happier, make us healthier, make us wholer as people. Because I think the truth of the like American dream success path is that like you get the white picket fence and the 2 kids and the dog, and you're like,
stop there.
of course, right? But no, you get the white picket fence and the 2 kids and the dog, and you're like, oh, actually, well, what if I also just had this nicer car?
One more.
What if I also just like got this one more promotion in my job, right? Whereas if you opt out of that and you say, actually, I'm not playing that game. My definition of success is all based on faithfulness to Christ. Then like you can be satisfied at a certain point, right?
What do I need?
Yeah.
And if all I really need is God, well, that's a low bar. He's already there for me.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And also, just like, again, I just love the story of Ruth and Boaz. It is one of my favorite stories in the Bible,
go ahead.
because it just shows like how intentional God is. And generally, it's like, as we're having this conversation, like people might think like, okay, so I guess I'm just gonna glean. I'm gonna also leave things for people. I'm gonna, set up the system. And maybe there is this idea of like self-sacrifice, which I think is important. But also, you never know where God is going to take something, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you're leaving like 3 hours of your week to serve in church or to go here or to do something, right? You never know what God is going to use from that to bring really cool things into your life, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you thought you needed those 3 hours to work 3 more hours, gain 40.
Prep more hours.
But you just never know, right? And I think God never asks us to be like, okay, figuring everything out. He just asks us to obey. He asks us to stick with him, and then he kind of handles the rest.
Yeah.
Of all the systems that have not failed us, God's the big one.
Oh, I love that. Oh, pen, pop up. That was really good.
Thank you.
So as we sort of wrap up, are there any sort of like practical tips or like thoughts that you might leave people with, okay, what does it look like to leave margin in our finances, in our time, in our relationships?
I think the thing for me is just to be intentional about it. Whether it's start of the week or start of every month, start of every year, it's just take a little bit of time to be intentional about how can I give? Where can I give?
Sure.
And if you're not in a position where you can give much, the pressure is not for you to give a lot, it's to give what you can.
Yeah.
And so just be intentional. Hey, I might be able to volunteer here, or maybe I can just help out, whether it's even just with friends.
Sure.
I can be there for them at this time.
Yeah.
Just being intentional. Set some time aside, try to plan it out and build it into your daily rhythms.
Yeah, one of the things that I really liked that Mike talked about was like in leaving margin in our attention for other people, right? That sometimes it's just about asking one more question. Yeah. It's just about hearing the end of that story and not being like, oh, sorry, I need to like do this other thing. Right? But just being like, yeah, let's just take some space right now to be fully present with this other person. Right?
Yeah.
And that is something that doesn't cost us any money.
Nope.
It costs us some time. It costs us some mental energy. And, you know, maybe not everybody has the space for that, but like a lot of people do. You can take that time, those 2 minutes, to ask that one more question, to just
dig a little deeper.
Dig a little deeper, be a little more present. Yeah.
Same with like, you know, the 5 minutes after the church, right? Just taking that time to like talk to people, get some coffee, get some cookies, and even just like that can feel like, especially if you've had a long week, you're like, I just want to go home. Yeah. But it's like just kind of taking that time, and you never know what might come out of it, right? And you never know how that might fill your cup or fill someone else's cup. And I think just, I love, Ben, what you said about intentional, because we can be like, oh yeah, so I'm just going to set 10% of my earnings, and then I'm just gonna, that's my way of contributing. But it's like, if you're just kind of like, I guess, giving the money, but you're not building that relationship, you're not actively trying to get involved in like systems and communities, then it's kind of like, well, maybe we can look at volunteering, you know, or maybe if people feel uncomfortable with giving, because it is something that folks feel uncomfortable with, which is just so valid, right? Then just give an hour of your week, or give 2 or 3 hours of your week. And just start there.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, folks. I think this has been really helpful to unpack this, sort of random law, right? That we can read it and be like, okay, cool, I don't harvest grapes, so moving on. Right? But there's a principle there.
It was intentional.
It was super intentional. And God says, leave space for other people, even when it's hard, even when it means that you're not going to be successful by the world standards. There is a better way. And there is a way that shows love for our neighbors and therefore brings love back to us. Right? As we build these whole communities of people that care for one another really well.
Our job is just to find it and choose it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Trinity Talks. I pray that you are able to make space for other people, whether that is in your finances, in your time, in your attention, in your energy. And I pray that you are surrounded by people who make space for you, and that together, as we all make space, we can share in the beautiful love that God has given to each of us. And we'll see you again next week.